Hi everybody, it's Sarah Cray and I teach watercolor, and today we are doing our wolf project.
Ooh.
We have Michael here working the cameras.
Hello.
And you may have noticed that Michael has been filming more and more tutorials. Keenan was transferred to our sister company, Missouri Star Quilt Company. So I just wanted to say a thank you to Keenan. We appreciate you. You will be missed. And I'm also grateful that we have someone here that you guys have filmed with before. So then we could just paint.
Continue where we left off.
Okay, so in this project, we are doing this in 5 steps. So our very first step is we will be doing our brown wash, and it's going to be messy and it's going to be loose, and we're going to use salt and all that fun stuff. Our second step is we'll put in our eyes and nose and our mouth. Our third step is we will start putting medium values in on the brown wash, which is going to start creating form on our wolf, make it 3-dimensional. Our fourth step is we are going to do splatters, and our fifth step is just details like the whiskers and some fur textures and all that fun stuff. But we are painting kind of really loose and gestural and playful today, so I want you guys to have fun, okay?
Okay.
We are using 4 colors for this project. We have black, sepia, Azure Blue, and deep yellow. Please know that you can use whatever colors you have. We also have 3 paintbrushes, round 2, round 6, and a round 12. I also have some salt here for my textures. My favorite is the McCormick Sea Salt Grinder. Different salts do different effects, all of that kind of stuff.
All right.
Use what you got. Okay, I taped my paper down using Holbein soft tape. I am using our Let's Make Art watercolor paper and my butcher tray palette, and I think that's everything. So let's get going. If you can raise your right hand and repeat after me. I promise to be kind to myself.
I promise to be kind to myself.
I promise not to compare my
I
work.
promise not to compare my work.
And I promise to have fun.
And I promise to have fun.
Thank you. Okay, so we have an outline here, and I just want to talk about outlines for a second. On outlines, I have hash marks here. I try and do hash marks or dashed line to give you guys an idea of where there is a darker value or maybe where color is ending, but we don't want it to be like a hard line. So you don't have to put these hash marks in like around the nose, ears, on the...
Yeah, go ahead. She always gets this word wrong. I'm so excited for you guys.
Snout?
Oh, you got it.
What do I usually... Muzzle?
Yes. You call it a muzzle.
Isn't it a muzzle?
No, a muzzle is what you put on a dog.
That's why I get it confused.
You've called it a snoot before. So
that one's my favorite. On the snoot, don't worry about putting these dashed lines on the snoot. And I also try and darken the pupil and the shadows around the eye. So then I can check my outline to make sure that we're not having some cross-eyed wolves here. But you don't have to like fill that in. So I just want to remind you, this is more of a way for you to have a guide of where values shift and to draw it. But you can change it at any time because it's your painting. And
also,
you're the artist.
Cross-eyed wolves are cute too, so
everyone deserves a little love.
Don't discriminate.
Okay, so I want a brown, and I have sepia here, but as you can tell, it is a really kind of more reddish color. And so I'm going to grab a little bit of azure. And when I add that azure in there, because it's blue, if I do just a little bit, it's going to neutralize it and make it a more neutral brown. If you put too much of the blue in there, which I will show you, it's going to turn green, like a green brown, which we don't really want a green wolf. So if that happens, just grab more of your sepia. You can also grab some of your deep yellow, which is going to give it a nice, beautiful warmth. Okay, so I have a beautiful brown here. Okay, and I'm just going to like use my round 12 and go for it. So I'm taking this brown and kind of like doing these kinds of marks where I'm kind of like boop, 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 following the lines. And then I like to take water and kind of just spread that color out. Okay, I added too much green and I'm out of sepia, so I'm just gonna put some more on there. Also grab yellow, and I love just doing like drops of color in areas, and then this is where we're going to add some salt just to see, like, I wonder what's going to happen, you know? And then using this same brown, I'm just going to keep going until I get, let's go ahead and go here. So I'm being very loose with my brush stroke. I'm kind of being a little bit wild. We can drop in other colors. Make sure that you go to the end of your paper. This is a cropped wolf. You don't want your wolf to end before your tape because then it will look like it's missing its body.
I just read a story about these hikers. I think they were up in Montana hiking around Yosemite or something.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, Yellowstone. Sorry, not Yosemite.
Yeah.
Yellowstone.
Yellowstone.
And it was getting late, and they heard whimpers, and there was this like dog cold in the river, all wet and hurt, and so they like carried it back to their car and they took it to the vet. And the next day they came back, and the vet was like, "This is a wolf. You're lucky it didn't kill you."
That's funny, and that's something you would do 100%.
Just carry a sweet little wolf.
Okay, so I basically did most of the bite. Oh, let's put some salt in. Now, as you can see, salt doesn't do stuff right away. As it dries, that's when you'll start to see some effects. That is so cool, whatever's happening there. And this is the fun thing about salt. You really never know. It could either do like barely nothing, or it can create this like almost spider web explosion kind of thing, which is also really cool. It's just an element of surprise always, which I think is fun. Okay, so for my ears now, I'm basically going to use just water, and there's paint on my brush, so it's like a light brown, and that's okay. And I'm going to just wet the whole ear except for the center, and then I'm going to take a brown, a dark brown, and just go along the tip here using the point of my brush, and that color is just automatically going to bleed and create a really cool edge. And then for this one here, I'm going to try and leave a really thin white line in between the top of the head and this ear, because in order for this ear to look like it is behind and farther away, it needs to be a darker value. So the top of the head needs to be a lighter value, and that ear needs to be darker to kind of separate it.
So for close-up stuff, further away means darker. For landscapes, far away stuff, further away means lighter.
So when you're doing objects or subjects like that, the rule is opposite. Usually if you want something coming forward, it's going to be a lighter value. And of course, this all depends on light source, right? But like if you're looking at a human and you're looking at their nose, which is most likely the part that sticks out the most from their face, the tip of their nose is going to be the lightest value. And then if you want something to recede, like go away, it's going to transition to a darker value here. But always think of the different planes. And I know this feels silly, but think of the different planes of your face. And whenever there is a different plane, there should be a different value. So my tip of my nose is going to be a different value than my lips, than my neck. My neck, because if you're just doing a portrait, is probably going to be the farthest plane from me to you, not only because it's farther, but also my chin is causing a shadow, right? So then this should be some of the darker. So think of that like if my ears were on the top of my head and I'm turned, this back ear, because it's behind my head, because it's farther away, is going to be darker than this ear here. Is that helpful?
Oh, yeah.
White ears?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So let's move that darkness down there. Okay, and now I can see some funky stuff happening with my salt, but I'm not going to do anything yet. I'm going to put some brown on my nose. And then as we kind of work our way towards the cheeks, I'm going to add water because I want it to be more of a light brown. That transition, you know, that happens with the white of the side of the mouth to the fur. So sometimes I'll just take the color that's already there.
You mean on the side of the snoot?
On the side of the snoot and spread it out.
I obviously want someone to put a big moon in the background of this and then put it on a shirt.
Yes.
I will buy it.
Now, because we are mixing colors here, I just want to call attention to the fact that all of our browns are going to be slightly different from each other, and that is okay. Okay, so that feels pretty good. That feels pretty good. Let's do the center really quick. And I'm just going to wet the center with water, and then I'm going to take just black. Just put it in there. And it's going to bleed out and do some really funky, cool things. And I'm going to embrace it because that's what this project is for. We're going for like super wild loose, and then we'll tighten it up. If it bleeds a lot, like it's doing right now, you can let it go. Or you can just pick it up with a paper towel.
Come here, little fella.
Come on, little fella. Okay. I'm going to let that dry. And I'm going to pay attention to my nose and my mouth. So I'm going to switch to a smaller brush. Now for my nose on my wolf, I'm going to start there. I'm going to use my round 2. I'm going to start with black. And right at that nostril opening right here, I'm going to paint that black. Okay? And then at the tip here, right at the tip of this nose, and then I'm going to rinse my brush and using just water, kind of spread out the color that I just laid down. Okay. And then same thing, I kind of want to value transition. So the darkest black is going to be right underneath that nose hole or right in that nose hole. And then it kind of transitions to a lighter gray.
My head knows that I can't pet a wolf, but my heart wants to.
Now we still have kind of like the front of the nose right here. You see that? I can't do anything with that just yet because if I touch any like moisture to it, it's going to make this black bleed. So I'm going to leave that for a second, let that area dry before I go in and try and mess with anything else. And now I'm going to move to the eye, but I'm going to make sure it's very, very dry before I paint it. So I'm going to
use your heated craft tool.
Use my heated craft tool to make sure it is very dry. Okay, I like to paint the iris first, and I'm going to do kind of like a yellow gold color. So I'm going to use my deep yellow, but you can make this eye blue with the azure. You can do whatever you want. So I'm going to take this yellow and so carefully I'm going to put in that iris. Now I want the top part to be a little bit darker than the bottom. So I'm going to mix some brown in with my yellow. And if that yellow is just like too yellow for you, you can always do brown instead. You can make a green. You can do whatever you want. But the top of this iris is going to be a darker color or darker value. Whenever I paint small areas, I feel like I need to whisper. Okay, we're going to let that dry for a second. Now we're going to go to the mouth. I'm going to grab my black, and then right underneath this mouth line, put that in, and then I'm going to use water to just kind of gently spread that gray out. Now, depending on the angle of this line, you can make him smiling. Or if you were to go up a little bit more, he would be smiling. He kind of looks like he's smiling now.
It's fun that the colloquial you, like put smiling on animals. I do it all the time. But like animals don't smile like that. I remember our dog Harvey, rest in peace Harvey.
Rest in peace, Harvey.
he would do a really cute smile right before he was about to puke. Every time. That's how I knew it was coming.
So they do smile, but...
Doesn't mean the same thing.
Okay, so now my nose is mostly dry or totally dry. So now I can go in with a gray and do the front. Basically, I want to make sure this gray is lighter than the nostril hole and the tip of the nose. Okay, and we can always go in and darken some areas if it just gets a little bit lost. Okay. Which I probably will once it's dried for a second. We're just gonna let that dry for a second. And let's make sure the eye is dry before we do the black part of our eye. Now there was someone who came to visit me in the store. Her name was Carol. She was so wonderful. And she paints pet portraits and paints animals pretty regularly. And she was telling me she does the opposite. She does eyes first, because then if she messes them up, she'll just start over, because it's heartbreaking to do like all the washes and stuff and then to mess up the eyes, which I think is a valid point.
That's not a bad idea.
So when we paint animals again, and specifically dogs, hint, hint, I will teach it to where we're painting the eyes and the nose first. Okay, here we go. So I'm taking my 2 and I'm just kind of following my outline.
It's so funny how things change. I remember your pet portrait days. You were like busy with pet portraits, before Let's Make Art, before...
They overlapped in the beginning,
yeah.
And I was doing, I think I had to do 3 pet portraits a day.
On the bright side, you're good at painting animals now.
Actually, I was thinking about it. I remember when, in the beginning, when Let's Make Art started, I was very confident about my animals. Because I did pet portraits so much. And I wasn't as confident with landscapes. And now I'm very confident with my landscapes. And I notice myself struggling with animals. So I'm like, okay, that shows to me that I'm ready to practice animals again and try and tighten up my skill set.
Let's reminisce for a second. Do you remember back in the old days also when you would take custom requests and you painted that girl surfing on Santa's back?
Oh my gosh. Yes.
It's so funny.
So I just finished the eye. I'll tell you guys more about that. I just want to give you direction. I finished the eye. I'm going back to the nose and kind of darkening the nostril and the tip, and then just kind of like blending it out to be a smooth transition. So I used to do like digital portrait work, and I would do like custom portraits in like a illustration style digitally. And there was, my favorite thing I ever painted was a woman wanted me to make a Christmas card where she's in outer space surfing on Santa with her 2 cats on her shoulders.
It was so good.
It was when she was just like, this is an odd request. And I was just like, I don't know you, but we are now best friends. And I just would be thrilled to receive something like this in the mail. Like, how amazing is that?
Some people are funny.
Yeah. Okay. That feels better. That nose feels a bit more shapely.
It's a boy or girl wolf?
I can't tell yet. Too early to tell. Okay. So that feels pretty good. And then now I'm going to go into the brown. I'm moving on to step 3, and we're going to start putting in some medium values to give our wolf some form. The nice thing is, because of the outline and because this is a profile, people are going to be like, oh, wolf or dog, and be like, oh, okay, I got it. So that gives us a lot of freedom to play with color and texture and movement, because for the most part, just the overall shape of this animal gives information enough that people are like, okay, I can see what that is. And I love that, because then I can like go wild with whatever I want. So we put our salt in there, some salt that did some really cool stuff, and some salt where I'm like, I don't know. So this I actually really, really love. This polka dot thing, don't love as much. So you can always like paint over.
Put pepper on it.
Too much salt? Add pepper.
It'll just cancel out.
So you can just paint over. I mean, it won't totally erase it, but it will like soften. Or you can take like a damp round 12 and just kind of work the areas.
Oh, wow. That works really fast.
Yeah, it's just going to blend it out. So it's up to you. I'm going to leave most of this area alone. Maybe I'll soften those because I think that's cool. So again, this is your painting. So you can look at it and say, wow, I really like that. Or no, I'm gonna soften that. I'm going to blend some of that out. Okay, so now we want to put in like a medium value brown on some of these areas to create form. So specifically, I'm going to do it underneath the neck here. So I like to put my color down and then rinse my brush and then kind of just move that color around here. And then we have hair kind of going like this is a wolf, right? It's wild. So I like to do the tips in color like so. And then I rinse my brush. And you can use your 6. I'm using my 12. And then I'm just going to take water and kind of meet it. And that's going to show that some of this hair is white. And then the ends are kind of like brown. If you look at the hairs on a wolf or a dog or whatever, especially if they're brown, there's so many different colors of brown too, that if you have like a spot on your wolf where it's really yellow or maybe really red, you're doing it right. Like there's a lot of color variation within.
I grew up with these kids, and their family had a half mastiff, half wolf dog named Hercules.
Oh.
Who was the largest dog I think I've ever met in my whole life. It
really?
Probably weighed 200 pounds. I don't know. It was huge.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, I was littler back then, so maybe it was just... It was
a regular dog.
It's a golden retriever.
Like in The Sandlot when they think Hercules is this giant thing, and then they see it and they're like, oh, it's a dog.
It would lay... They had like a normal couch that had 3 cushions, like a 3-cushion couch. And it would just lay and take up 2.5 cushions.
That's amazing.
It was huge.
Okay, so when I get to, during the body, I put some medium values here along the back, did that around the ears. Now when we get to like the nose, snout.
Nice.
The snoot.
The snoot is so much better.
We're going to start putting in some darker values, kind of like right here on the bridge. And then along the nose here, maybe around the eye.
I'm not convinced you couldn't call it a muzzle. That might work. I don't know. I'm not a dog anatomy expert here, but
yeah, someone tell us. Me neither.
Could you call it a muzzle?
Could you call it a muzzle? I feel like you could.
No. Time out. Stop. Hold the phone. It wasn't muzzle that you were calling it. I just remembered.
What?
It was nozzle. You kept calling it the dog's nozzle. Because I'm like, no, muzzle sounds pretty good. I don't think I'd laugh about that. No, you kept saying nozzle.
The nozzle. Well, on the nozzle, we are going to put the shadow along the nose.
Good stuff. Nozzle.
And I put in this medium value, and I just want to show... Thank you for remembering that, dear. That is hilarious. I'm going to use my 12. You can use your 6. And I'm going to think about doing brush strokes that are kind of like these lines, like similar to fur. Does that make sense? So we're going to like layer these wisps of lines here to kind of emulate some fur, emulate some of that texture while adding depth to our wolf. And I love it when there's like a pop of yellow in a brown. So sometimes I like to go through with deep yellow and just kind of like pop it in there just to see.
Little zing.
A little zing.
Little zest of yellow.
And let's say you do a bunch of those strokes and you're like, that's cool, but now it looks like a weird texture. Well, then just blend it out. Smooth it out. There's nothing wrong with that.
I don't know if it picks up on the microphone, but I like how it sounds when you paint over the salt.
Yeah, it definitely has like a sound. Then we got to make sure it's kind of dark right around that eye. And it's a little too wet right now, I can tell, because I'm putting color in and it's just kind of diffusing out and not staying as dark as I would like. So I'm going to let that dry for a second. I'm going to switch to my 6. And kind of where this white area, the white fur meets the brown fur, I'm going to do a couple brown strokes in here because it's not like a clean line. There's always an area like right where they meet where some of the white is in the brown and some of the brown is in the white. So I'm just going to kind of start to put that in. You can use your dry brush texture for an uneven line. And then I'm going to take some of this gray, so some black, add some water to it, so it's kind of like a gray. I'm going to paint this bottom jaw and put some more fur textures in using this kind of gray. Okay, I'm going to make sure, I need to do darker layers, but this has got to be more dry. Okay, so I need to make sure it's nice and dark on this part of the dog. What is that?
Eye socket?
Yes. So we got to do kind of like that shadow. Now I left like a light value around the eye, but now I'm painting so dark all around it that it's looking disjointed. So I'm going to put a little bit of color in there, but try not to mess with the black. So be careful.
You're painting right in the nozzle pit?
Yeah, the nozzle pit. That's right. And then we're going to do a little bit behind it. And this kind of makes our wolf look a little bit more fierce. Kind of adding that. I'm going to do some little fur textures here using this dark brown that I have. And there's also hair kind of coming up around the ears, kind of off the ears. I got a little too dark there, so I'm just going to blend that out. Okay. Now we're going to add some splatters. So I'm going to take my paper or grab a paper towel or whatever you have to kind of block this off. And then using my round 12, I'm going to pick up browns and blacks and make sure you don't have anything expensive nearby.
Like one of your husband's cameras.
That's happened like 2 times.
With white paint. Just white speckles. I'm like, what happened here?
It's all over my computer. It's all over my phone. It's everywhere. You can be as wild with these drops as you want. Think about the mountains and the feeling of like wildness there and movement and play.
Not so much the one you're painting currently, but the example one where the drops have kind of, what is that word? Dissolved a little bit? Spread?
Yeah.
This one looks like snow to me. Looks like a snow scene.
Oh, this one?
No,
or the reference?
The original, yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. And to do smaller ones, you can use a smaller brush or just have less water.
I like your drumming technique on your finger.
Thank you.
Do you know who Neil Peart is?
No.
Well, never mind. Neil Peart joke, insert here.
And then quickly, while it's wet, I'm just going to wipe the brown paint around the table because if you let that dry, it will be hard to come out. Okay. So that is looking good. I'm going to go back. And then now we're going to kind of look at where we need just some extra love and attention, where we can put some extra fur textures, details. We still got to do the whiskers. I will say that putting whiskers on an animal like dogs and, different animals, if they have them, really does lend, how do I say this? Makes it feel more real. But whiskers are tricky. So if you're not as confident in whiskers, I just want to acknowledge that they're sometimes a little bit hard. So if you want to leave them out, you can. I'm just going to darken some of these ears. And now that my head is dry, I can kind of fill in that line where the head and the ears meet. Okay. Let's maybe do another layer here. And it's just like rough, loose strokes, okay? We're not blending everything out. We're letting it be kind of gestural. Let's do some fur gatherings.
Forget about it. All right, I'm sorry.
And I'm not painting over this area too much because I just really like it. And sometimes I'll do like one more layer of black on the nose and the eyes just to really reinforce how dark that area is. But it's always scary to do so because you could mess up your line.
I don't know that makeup technique. Is it called Egyptian eye?
Yep.
You could just give her a nice Egyptian eye makeup.
Yep, that's it. That's the technique.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not confident on the actual name. Like a cat?
Yeah, like where you do the eyeliner way back here.
Yeah. I think it's called a cat eye, but I'm not very familiar.
The wolf
with
wouldn't
makeup.
appreciate that. Cat eye.
A wolf eye. Let's do some textures. Do I like that? Nah. And this is what's fun. Put it down. Do I like that? Nah. Let's lift it up. There's something so freeing about being able to loosely paint an animal. I just gotta tell you. It's just fun. Okay. And maybe I'll take my two and using like a medium value, medium to light. I'm gonna do a few. Make sure it's nice and thin. Just a few fur detail lines kind of going around the eye. Because if you think about the hair itself, the eye, the hairs are really fine and short right here. And then on the body, they're nice and long. So it's just putting a little here and there. Okay, let's do the whiskers. So I'm going to grab black or gray. And they have those like little dots that the whiskers come out of.
Whisker dots.
Whisker dots is their technical name. I looked it up. And then we do our whiskers. If you have a liner brush, it's easier to do whiskers. If not, you can use your round 2. You're going to pick up some color. You're going to hold it vertically so it's a thin line, and you're just going to go for it. You're just going to like light pressure, make a whisker. And it's hard when my paper is taped because I like to like turn my paper. So just like do the best you can position wise. And if I do like half a line and it's not as long as I want, I just leave it. Like I don't try and fix it, because trying to create a continuous line is actually really hard.
I feel like our dog Birdie doesn't have whiskers.
I think you're right.
Is that a thing? Do some dogs not have whiskers? Maybe she just has a very hairy face and they're hidden.
Maybe.
But
she is hairy.
I feel like I touch her face all the time. I would feel them in there.
Now I'm questioning if wolves have whiskers.
Let's look. You know what? Let's put this.
They have whiskers.
Yeah. Do all dogs have whiskers? It says all dogs have whiskers. Why does my dog have no whiskers? Alopecia? I don't think Birdie has alopecia.
No. Girlfriend's got a lot of hair.
Curly breeds can have curly whiskers. That'd be funny.
But wolves have whiskers,
Wolves
right?
have whiskers,
That's what
sure,
yeah. That's what I thought you were checking.
Well, they're canines too.
And now I'm just kind of blending things out, softening some things, but maybe I'll add one more line around the mouth.
Dang, wolves are pretty. I'm looking up just to make sure that wolves do have whiskers.
They're really pretty.
They're just majestic looking.
Yeah.
Back to the I want to pet them. I shouldn't. Also, think of the ticks on a wolf. You know, you'd get a tick just touching it.
Can you tell it's tick season here in Missouri?
Oh my gosh.
That's what's on our mind. Checking my kids whenever they come in from outside. Which, when I first moved here, was really disturbing to me. I'm like, oh my gosh, a tick. And I just have to say, in the country, in the Midwest, they're just everywhere.
It's just part of life.
It's just part of life. And so they don't freak me out like they used to. I'm not sure if that's a good or a bad thing. Okay, we're done.
It's beautiful.
We did it. I really hope that you had fun with this project. I hope you allow yourself to really let loose and play and be gestural. And no, we did this before. We did a galaxy wolf previously a few years ago. You can do this wolf in any color. The biggest thing is just value. So if you're doing like a white wolf, then your shadows and your furs will stay like kind of grayish and just stay in that realm. And then you can turn this into a galaxy wolf too, again, if you want to. You can refer to that tutorial if you're interested in how to do that. But the biggest thing is really just being playful and having fun, and just by being loose and doing just a few details like the nose and the eyes, it really just like tightens it up and brings it all together, which makes it fun. So thank you guys so much for painting with me, and I just want to acknowledge and thank you guys for taking time out for you. I mean, there's so many things grabbing your attention and your time that I love so much that you're willing to take the time out to just paint and learn something and try something new. So I just want to say good job. You're living life right.
Take that TikTok time out.
What?
Paint us something.
That's right. Okay. Thank you guys so much for being here. I'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.